of up to £10,000. His comments come after reports that the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, which sets salary levels at Westminster, is to recommend a substantial increase later this week. But how do MP salaries compare with other jobs in the public sector? Well, the basic salary for an MP is currently just over £66,000 a year, but they can claim expenses and also receive extra cash from outside work. On average, a secondary head teacher in England earns over £55,500 a year. In the health service, the basic salary of a hospital consultant can be over £100,000 a year, depending on length of service. And the average salary for a local council chief executive is around £147,000. So just how many MPs have taken a pay cut when their current salary is compared to their earnings before entering Parliament? With me now is Matt Korris, a senior researcher at the independent charity, the Hansard Society. He's been looking into the figures. Matt, thanks very much for joining us. So you've been talking to MPs who entered Parliament in 2010 about how their salary now compares to life before Parliament. What did you find out?
Absolutely, thanks so much. I found from surveys I've done of the new MPs, the 2010 intake, that more than half of them, 56%, say they'd taken a salary cut to become an MP, and almost a third of them had taken. Some of the surveys, they suggested some of the comparisons with other public sector salaries that you showed earlier on. But from the suggestions I got, there were a whole wide range of possible comparative salaries, everything from normal teacher to head teacher to local authority chief exec, senior judge, which is a very wide range, as you've just shown. So I'm not sure there's any consensus amongst the new MPs as to what the salary of an MP ought to be.
And you actually found, I'm looking at some of the notes on your research, that most MPs would prefer an increase in the allowance for their staff rather than a direct increase in their personal salary, because actually they end up, some of them, funding this out of their own salary.
I think that's true. I think you'd find that more MPs would take additional resources for staff for operating their offices, not for personal expenses, rather than any increase in salary. I do think that part of the change to the expenses system and the bureaucracy that's been involved in that has meant that some MPs have stopped claiming all the expenses that they're entitled to because of that bureaucracy. So they're funding some of their operations out of their own pocket. And I know some MPs who are raising money outside of their job as an MP to help fund their offices so that they can pay for more staff, so that they can respond to constituents more effectively.
Now, the problem, I suppose, for MPs, as we've seen from most of our reports today, is that there is a perception that actually, A, they earn a lot more than they really do, and B, most people don't think they deserve a pay rise, although when their actual salary, the backbencher's salary, is pointed out, some people are then tempted to say, well, maybe they should earn a little bit more, but perhaps not right now. And given the difficult economic times that we're in, it's a very hard message to sell, isn't it, that they should be getting any pay rise?
I think that's absolutely right. I think it's definitely time for a proper review of MPs' pay. The expenses issues have been addressed. It is time to look at what is the right salary for an MP, but it has to be taken in context of the situation we find ourselves in. And I think IPSA, the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, do have an out here. In their documentation, they say that public confidence in MPs' pay, pensions, expenses is the fundamental responsibility of IPSA. And I think that allows them to take whatever assessment they've made of what an MP ought to be paid and put that in the context, the current background of the financial situation, and say, well, we think that MPs ought to be paid X amount, but given the current circumstances, we can't yet recommend that kind of increase, if an increase is being suggested, and maybe in better times we can consider getting it to where we think MP salaries ought to be.
Very interesting research. Thank you very much, Matt. Matt Korris, senior researcher with the Hansard Society.